God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 14 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in what is normally beautiful Southern California. More on that later. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California, and I know both Brad and I are super excited to pick the top 10 games worth actually spending some money on this coming weekend. Brad, I have to start off by saying I am so unbelievably bitter. Do not let me pick the Jets again this year. Please just take me outside and shoot me if I decide to go with the Jets again.
That's two of us that have made that mistake this year, and I finally turned the tables on you last week. I took the Eagles, and that's why you and I ended up in a tie last week. Both went 6-4. Not a bad week. Could have been better for me, but I have to make a proclamation that I was wrong on that Bills-Patriots game. We were going to send a message, whoever lost that game, and it's me, and I felt bad about it. But, it was kind of a unique game, played in extremely windy conditions. But, again, Bill Belichick cementing his legacy. I thought the most brilliant move of the game was when he went for two, and he made it an 8-0 game. I mean, it completely put Buffalo on the defensive from that point forward. I thought the Bills were a better football team, but they couldn't figure out how to make a big play when they needed it. They missed a field goal. They went for it on fourth, couldn't get it. And again, the Patriots win. And, Bill Belichick almost looked like it was a home field advantage for him. He only ran the ball, I think, 3 times the entire game. 2 of them were on back-to-back plays late in the fourth quarter. And so there it is. There's my proclamation, Dave. You were right. I should have taken the Patriots.
Thank you. I wasn't even going to hold you to it because of the weather. I'm not sure we really.
Well, I was kind of wondering if you were going to, at least give some admission that the weather made it a rather unique game. It wasn't a normal game situation with the wind.
No. And you do have to admire the brilliance of Josh McDaniels and, of course, Bill Belichick in putting together a game plan which involved 45 rushes and 3 passes. I mean, just absolutely brilliant. You or I could have handled the handoffs in that game pretty effectively. But just a fantastic game plan, and the fact that they stuck to it. And at one point, I was even hoping they wouldn't throw any passes in the entire game. That's what I was really looking for. All right. Well, we've got a big week. It is week 14, Mr. Hoyseth. I believe you are leading by 3 games heading into this particular weekend. And I have gone 7-10 2 weeks ago, 6-10. I am coming for you, Mr. Hoyseth, Mr. Paul Bunyan, axe-wearing University of Minnesota hoodie. Why don't you kick us off?
All right, well, the first one is a game that very few people have interest in. It's the Lions at the Broncos. It's got a low over-under of 42. This game being played in Denver. The Lions have almost no offense whatsoever. The Broncos don't have much more offense, and they're not going to be able to spread the field and all those kinds of things. And so I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to take the under. I think 42 is too big of a number for these two teams who offensively are both very challenged. And I don't see Teddy Bridgewater doing much but handing the ball off and going underneath the coverage, and both these teams settling for a lot of field goals. So I'm going to take the under at 42.
Yeah, and plus I think the Denver Bronco defense in general is better than what the Minnesota Vikings displayed against the Detroit Lions last week. Spreads when they're 42 points and you're taking the under, or regardless, always a little scary to me, because when you have quarterbacks who are let's just face it, not that good. You got a guy like Jared Goff that's fully capable of throwing 4 picks in a game. And certainly you could see a pick 6 or 2 go in the other direction. Still, that being said, this is just, you'd be hard pressed to get me to go with the over at all in this game. Hey, and Brad, we do have to give Dan Campbell. I mean, maybe if the Detroit Lions decide to run their 2-minute offense for the entire game, this spread would be in jeopardy. Just ask the Viking defense from last week about that. But, I mean, kudos to Dan Campbell for getting his first win as a head coach in the National Football League last week.
Yeah, at some point we're going to get around to the genesis of you wearing a bunch of Timberwolves gear. But for now, I'm going to stick with this Vikings disaster last week, because I know you're probably going to jump into the Vikings game next, being that it's getting late here on Thursday afternoon, and we got a Thursday game coming up. But we found out that there's at least one more quarterback in the league in that game that is better at running the 2-minute offense than Kirk Cousins, and that's Jared Goff. And so I've been saying it all year long. Kirk Cousins can't run a 2-minute offense. It's embarrassing. For as much money as the guy's making, he has no control of that team when the chips are on the line. And even Jared Goff, with the depleted lineup that the Lions have, was able to go. Do you see the Vikings defense? Why in the world would they not blitz on every single play a guy that is incapable of avoiding a blitz? They were sending 3 guys up front. The Vikings are a complete mystery. Complete mystery.
All right. Speaking of mysteries, let's just go straight to this Thursday night game. Now, we are doing this recording Thursday afternoon, early in the mid-afternoon in the West Coast. So we've got the Steelers at the Minnesota Vikings. The over-under on this is 44.5 points. I could not in any way bring myself to attempt to pick a winner in this particular game. As you know, I love Mike Tomlin as a head coach. It's also why I believe that, Ben Roethlisberger is going to get some stuff together. The Viking offense on a short week at home is going to be better than they were last week in Detroit. I look at this as a game where when Thursday night is over, Mr. Hoysef, I will be up by 1 on you in our top 10 games because I am going with the over.
Yeah, I'm not going with the over, and for multiple reasons. I don't know if Adam Thielen's healthy or not, number one, and both of these teams are really poor against the run. I think one is number 32 in the league. The Steelers and the Vikings are 30 or 30. It's one or the other. So neither one can stop the run. Looks like Dalvin Cook might actually play in this game for the Vikings. But neither team is actually particularly good in the red zone. Pittsburgh is terrible in the red zone offensively. The Vikings are not bad, but without Thielen, I question whether or not they'll be able to punch it into the end zone, or we're going to be watching a bunch of Greg Joseph attempts. And so I think, given the fact that I think both teams are going to run the ball more, it's going to shorten the game. I think we're going to settle for a lot of field goals, and I'm definitely going the under in this game. Thursday night games tend to be a little sloppier.
Yeah.
Offensively, the guys have really only been on the field for a couple of walkthroughs, and they're pressed into action. They don't even, get out of bed till Tuesday after a Sunday game. And the Steelers are a terrible red zone offensive team. So I'm going to go the under. I know it's a low number, but for the second straight game in a row, I'm taking the under and a low number.
All right, so there's definitely a difference of opinion here. There is an opinion, though, in this particular game that I think we both agree on. Mike Zimmer is definitely, remember the old Budweiser hot seat commercials? He's definitely on the hot seat. It is sauna-like temperature underneath Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins, as well as Rick Spielman at this point. There hasn't been a major change in Minnesota for quite some time in all three of those positions. And I think we're looking at the end of I don't know if you can call it an era if it never worked out.
An error.
We are nearing the end of that.
Yeah, I think they would call that an error.
End of an error.
Okay, first I got to get it off. What's at the T-Wolves gear? Are they finally over 500 this late in the season in 27 years or what?
No, so what happened was early in the season I got the hoodie, and they went on they proceeded to go on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak, and I said I'm not buying any more T-Wolf gear until they win some games. So they finally won a bunch of games, Brad. They actually got over 500 for a game. So then I proceeded to order the hat. And since the hat has arrived, the T-Wolves have lost 3 in a row and look absolutely terrible and have had some major injuries along the way. But I decided to just match it all up today and look like the poor Timberwolves fan that I am.
All right, I'm going to jump into my second game here. I have got it's a big game. It's the Bills at the Bucs. To me, that's a huge game. The Bills, if they lose this game at Tampa, their playoff hopes now are starting to become in jeopardy. And the Buccaneers are 3.5-point favorites, and they're at home. But I got to tell you, I like the Bills in this game. I see signs, even though it was windy and it was a weird game, but I see signs of them getting better at what they do. And I think the Bucs are a team that's very susceptible to the pass. I think the Bills have a really good defense, and they'll take this game personally. They kind of have to win. Now they're going down there on a one less day's rest than the Buccaneers have got. But I thought 3.5 with that extra hook was a little bit much for me. I'm going to take the Bills. I don't know who wins, but I like the 3.5 and the guys on the road wearing red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I looked at this game and first of all, this Bills team generally when they have a bad game, they do bounce back the next week and play significantly better. But it is a short week, it feels like it's a short week for them since they played on Monday night. And I just something tells me, TB12 is going to get a little extra sleep this week. And this Bucs team seems to be, coming into, I think they're peaking a little early, Brad, but they are definitely peaking right now. And I just don't believe in the Bills the way you do. It's like I can't help but think that this team is just okay. Yeah, they're sort of, they have no running game. I don't know where you can go in the National Football League in the playoffs without a running game. They have no running game at all. And that's definitely affecting, what Josh Allen is able to do as a starting quarterback in this National Football League. So I look at this as almost a no-brainer for me to take Tampa at home against a Buffalo Bills team that, quite frankly, is reeling. 3.5 points. It's that extra half point that had me a little concerned, but I'm going with the other B in this one. I'm going with the Bucs.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's tough. As inconsistent as the Bills have been, it's tough. But here, I got to make another proclamation. Where the hell was Matt Breda?
Proclamation Thursday. Where
was Matt Breda? Remember, that was my pickup of the week last week. I said, everybody go out and pick up. I think he touched the ball one time.
Well,
in a game where you had to run the ball.
He touched the ball and he proceeded to fumble the ball. And I think they tried to pass to him once and he couldn't handle. I texted you during the game and I was like, I said something to the effect of, we need deflated footballs in this particular game because that ball in that cold weather certainly looked like a hard rock. Breida could not handle it at all. Man, he totally fell apart. So
yeah, well, there's this week for Matt Breida. How's that? I'm sticking with my Bills, Dave, until they're dead.
Okay. I will hold you to that. Week 1 of the playoffs, not that far away.
It's not like they're the Jets or something, you know?
Yeah. Oh, God. All right. Moving on to a game that I'm sure you'll be happy to pick. The Rams at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are favored by 3. I think anybody that thinks Sean McVay and the Rams have suddenly figured it out, and anybody that thinks they're going to go into Arizona this week and somehow match up better against this Arizona Cardinal team, which seems to be, unless you know something about Kyler Murray that I don't know.
I do.
that is like he's not playing in the game. Even if Colt McCoy was starting this game, I'd still be taking this Cardinal team. This Cardinal team is the surprise of the National Football League this season, because when we started the season, a lot of people just weren't sure where they were. A lot of people thought they were going to regress, and some of the big name free agency signings that they had were going to backfire. And while some of those haven't really materialized to anything significant, JJ Watt, they still are by far the class of the NFC so far in this year. I'm going with the Cardinals at home in the big toaster in the oven, as Chris Berman might attempt to say.
Yeah, I don't know. You picked some of the worst games ever this week. I despise these games.
I just wanted to hear you talk about your love for Sean McVay and this Rams offense.
Yeah, no. But I tell you what, though, we have seen in the last week or two now, OBJ starting to become a part of that offense. And I know it was Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's the great elixir for every team in the league. But these things go in pairs, Dave. And I think it was a good confidence builder for the Rams. I don't see Arizona being able to run the ball very much in that game. And that puts all the onus on, you like that, the word onus? I haven't used that all year. It puts all the onus on their quarterback, who I don't think is a great passer of the football. And so I see some turnovers in this game. I think the Rams, are going to go on the road and beat that spread. I think the Rams are going to go on the road and win that game, is what I think. I think the Arizona Cardinals, you talked about peaking. I think the Cardinals peaked too early. I think we're going to see the Rams start to play some better football down the stretch and make this thing interesting. I'm going to take the Rams and the points.
It's like the OBJ comment was like the process of elimination. They have no other wide receivers on their roster. They were going to eventually have to throw to him. Look, I said it last week. I'll say it again. Maybe the most valuable player on that football team was Robert Woods. And the fact that he's, out is really hurting this team. I am as shocked as any game so far this year to see you go with the Rams. I
hate having to do it. I really do, because, I'm not a big Sean McVay fan. Yeah. But it is a rivalry. It's not uncommon for these teams to go win another team's building. And so I think the Rams, if they're going to have any shot at winning this division, they got to win this week. Otherwise, it's the Cardinals who could be looking at the 1 seed in the NFC. And I like the Cardinals. I think they're a really good team. They might be the best offense and defensive team in the league in terms of total talent. But there's something about them. I haven't bought in fully, Dave. I don't fully believe in this team. And I think the Rams go down there and at least give them something to think about this weekend.
That's the difference between you and me. I have completely bought in hook, line, and sinker with the Arizona Cardinals at this point.
I just wish I would have picked the Jets game. But anyways, I'm going to go to my next one. It's the old black and blue division game. The Bears are at the Packers. And, it's probably going to be cold and, gross looking outside. And but the Packers are 12.5-point favorites, Dave. And I'm not a big fan of that line at all. Devontae Adams is still nursing a hamstring. There's hasn't been any word whether or not he's even practiced this week. And this is not the same Packers team without Devontae Adams. They have two major weapons, Adams and then Aaron Jones. And the Bears are pretty good at stopping the run defensively. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I thought it was kind of odd. The Packers were a 12.5-point favorite, but the over-under was very low. I mean, it was like 41 or 42, something like that. And so, to me, that's a big spread for a game that's predicted to be such a low-scoring game. I'm going to take the Bears and the 12.5. Justin Fields gets to start this week. I'm a little uneasy about that, but I just thought 12.5 was way too much.
Yeah, I wavered on this game back and forth for a little while. I mean, Brad, if I were to ask you, who's the best team in the NFC? What are the top three teams in the NFC? You'd probably have the Packers as one of those teams. A lot of people have the Packers almost as the best team in the National Football League right now. And I just think that's crazy.
Here's the problem I have with that, Dave. I think the Packers have the best quarterback. And a quarterback is a really critical position when it comes to the playoffs and winning big games. I love Aaron Rodgers. You know how much I like the guy. I know he's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
He's hard to respect after the COVID vaccine thing, but that guy is flat out a wizard and knows how to win football games. I don't think the Packers are a top three team in the NFC in terms of overall talent.
Yeah.
Especially when you take out a Devontae Adams or an Aaron Jones, something like that. Defensively, they still haven't figured it out. They can talk all they want about their improving defense, but they always seem to collapse when it matters. And so I think the Bears aren't going to do anything, out of the ordinary. They're going to run the ball with David Montgomery and, maybe throw a pass or two to Darnell Mooney or Cole Kmet or something like that. But I just think these teams know each other way too much. And I believe that 12.5 is just a huge line.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. 12.5 is just such a big line. It's so hard for me to overcome that. And for me, the clincher was that Justin Fields is starting. He's the guy that could, lead an upset potentially against the Packers, especially if he survives the first half of the game. He's a second half quarterback at this point. So I am all down with the Bears in this one. All right, Brad, in a game that you were probably happy I picked, the Cowboys at the Washington football team, Taylor Heinicke his statistically is outgunning Patrick Mahomes by a lot at this point. Cowboys favored on the road by 4. We both know that this is another one of those divisional rivalry games where, quite frankly, it doesn't matter who's playing in it. Anything can happen. I think that, Dallas is had a bit of a wake-up call. They are struggling with a banged up Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard's been, a little sluggish at times. But I look at this as probably one of the easier games to pick if you're picking a team on the road this week. I'm going with the Cowboys over and popping the Taylor Heinicke bubble this week in Washington.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. Taylor Heinicke, meet Micah Parsons. This guy he's quickly becoming one of the best players in the league. Athletically, he's just freakish in nature. He's big, he's fast, he weighs about 250 pounds. He can run with the wide receivers. And, that's a guy that I think is going to be a problem for Taylor Heinicke, all day long. The Cowboys are a team that kind of needs to go on a run themselves. They need to get Dak Prescott right. I haven't felt like he's played great football so far, at least in recent weeks. But the Cowboys now, they could put this thing away quickly. in their division. And I think they sense that. It's a 4-point line on the road, team going on the road. I think that's a little bit high, but I feel pretty comfortable that the Cowboys are a better football team. So I'm going to take Dallas as well.
Yeah, and no word yet if the Mike McCarthy is going to be back. I think he will this week. And
McCarthy, by the way, today guaranteed a win on the road.
I wish you would have told me that before I made my pick.
Yeah, you would have taken the football team if I'd have done that.
That is immediately up on the on the billboard. They'll have it up on the big screen TV in the fourth quarter. Yeah. When the game is 9-10.
The guy just went Babe Ruth and called his shot. I mean, he's not Babe Ruth.
You, sir, are no Babe Ruth. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like I don't like. It was probably unprovoked as well, which makes it even worse than if he just sort of said it in some off the cuff way. The Cowboys have to get it right. This is really important that they get it right this week. Washington is, could easily turn around and win this game, like 17-10 if they're able to, slow this Cowboy defense down. But I think Dallas is going to get up in front early. And once they're out in front early, it's going to be impossible for Washington to stay connected to them.
There's something that Dallas needs to do that's going to be a really tough thing to do. They need to figure out that Tony Pollard's the better running back between he and Ezekiel Elliott. I'm a little concerned there because Pollard's considered questionable for this week.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking moving forward. I know that that's a tough, chain to break. That team has such a connection with Ezekiel Elliott. He's been there so long and been such a good back. But, once again, we saw last week, Tony Pollard is, he's an exceptional talent. The guy's got he's amazingly fast. And he is the future at running back of that team. So that's a tough one if you're Dallas. But Pollard gives you a little something extra that Elliott just doesn't have anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at some point, Zeke is going to, he's going to end up on another team for a season and that will be it. I mean, like it seems, it looks like the wheels are coming off.
All right. Next game for me, probably, man, talk about not interesting game. It's the Seahawks at the Texans, Dave. And somehow Pete Carroll pulled a rabbit out of a hat last week. And now he goes on the road with a game at, Houston, which is, again, they're kind of like playing the Jets or, one of those teams. It's a great elixir. The Jaguars, why do I get this sense that the Seahawks are not dead? I don't know what it is. Russell Wilson's been battling a finger problem, showing some signs of getting out of that. They still have no running game, but the Texans are terrible. I was a little surprised the line was this high at 7.5. I don't know what I'm missing, but it told me that I should probably take the Seahawks. I mean, a lot of people out there like the Seahawks in this game. Houston seems like they've kind of packed it in for the year. They're playing for, a really high draft pick at this point. Seattle still thinks they've got a shot at the playoffs, and they legitimately do after last week. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. I'm going to give the 7.5.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's, too good of a coach, too good of a motivator to, sort of until the fat lady is saying, the Seahawks still have a chance. He's, they're going to fight, everywhere they go. Houston is just a disaster. I mean, it's a disaster at this point. Let's call it for what it is. One high draft pick is not going to solve the problems with this Houston Texans team. I can tell you that right now. There's a lot of rebuilding. I don't think they have the right coaching staff in place to do it as well. So I look at this as I definitely think Seattle's going to win this game. You're right. The 7.5 is a little scary. But I'm going to agree with you and jump on the Seahawks bandwagon.
Yeah, I just get this feeling that, one of these weeks the Seahawks are going to bust out. We haven't seen one of those games yet where we see 3 moon balls to Tyler Lockett and all those and I just get a sense this might be that weekend. Like if you have Tyler Lockett on one of your fantasy teams and you've been questioning whether or not you're going to play him, like this could be the week where he makes, his 200 yards and 3 long touchdowns. I mean, I just get a sense like Seattle's ready to bust out and have that one game where everybody goes, wow, the Seahawks are back,
Yeah.
And, what a better opponent to do it against than Houston.
I do have Tyler Lockett on my fantasy football team. And, unfortunately, I haven't had anybody better at wide receiver. So I've had to play him, and it has been challenging. There's been some good weeks and some not so good weeks. Speaking of not so good weeks, Giants at the Los Angeles Chargers. Beautiful SoFi Stadium, Brad. 10.5 points. I've got to give up if I want to go with the Chargers into this game. The Chargers at the Bengals last week was the other game I really questioned, on Saturday before Sunday. I was like, why did I do that? Why did I go with the Bengals in that game? I beat myself up over that all weekend, along with the terrible decision to take the Jets instead of the Eagles in that game. I look at this. This is a bad Giants team. House is about to be cleared. I don't think Joe Judge is going to survive. I think they're just a disaster. I don't see them putting it together. The Chargers have so much more to play for. They're at home. 10.5 points. I will hand you over 10.5 points. It's a lot of points, but this is the Giants we're talking about. I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm not actually. And, the Chargers are a 7-5 team, and they've done some nice things, and they've had some moments, but they've still given up more points than they've scored. And their defense is not great. Their offense is spotty. And now you've got Keenan Allen out with COVID. He may or may not play. He's got to pass 2 negative tests, rather.
Yeah.
You got Mike Williams, who's hurting. I picked up Jalen Guyton on my fantasy football team this week. And suddenly you've got an Austin Eckler that can't hold on to the football.
Yeah.
And so I look at this line and I go, why are the Chargers given 10.5? That seems like a tremendous amount of points. I know the Giants are horrific. But the Giants can play. They have a better defense, the Giants, than the Chargers. I can assure you that right now. And I just think this is a game that stays within that margin. I think that the Chargers are at home. That doesn't mean anything. The Giants will still have more fans there, right?
That's actually true.
Right. So 10.5 points. I was very, very rich for my blood. Had it been maybe 8 or 9 points, I would have perhaps gone on the other side of things. But I'm going to take the Giants and take my chances, and I think the Chargers win the game, but I like getting 10.5 points to start that game.
Hey, so do you think the Giants fans? So this is a scheduling error, if you ask me, by the NFL. The Giants game should have been earlier in the season when the Giants still had a chance. Now that we're sitting here towards the middle part of the season, they're clearly they're basically out of it at this point. Do you think that the Giants fans that show up are there to root for the Giants, or are they there to boo the Giants?
Well, I think the problem, I can't get past one thing you said in your original premise when you said when they still had a chance. Okay, because they went into the season with Daniel Jones as their quarterback, which tells me you don't have a chance, right? And so I can't get past that. I don't even want to answer the hypothetical because I can't get past the original premise.
I will say this. I cannot wait for Sunday afternoon, though. I think it's the 1:05 or 1:25 start time to see all of the fans in the stands for the Giants. And I can't wait to hear them boo their favorite team 3,000 miles away from New York City.
Now, is Daniel Jones going to play? I think Mike Glennon's also in concussion protocol. They might even be onto a third. That might be why this line is so high, is that there's so many quarterback woes. I would argue maybe the third string guy is the best guy, but that's just me.
I was going to say, the unknown quarterback might be the best quarterback, the best chance the Giants have of covering the spread.
All right, let's go to my final game. It's a doozy. It's a fun one usually. I don't know that it's a doozy, but it is a fun one. It's the Raiders at the Chiefs. Two teams that absolutely despise one another. I don't know if it holds as much weight as it did when they were in Oakland or whether they were in LA, but now that they're in Vegas, they're going on the road to Kansas City, where the Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite. These two teams played just a couple of weeks back, and the Chiefs just scored a resounding win, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say 41-14. Maybe I'm thinking of something wrong, but I haven't seen anything to make me believe that the Raiders have improved since then, and I haven't seen anything to make me believe that the Chiefs have suddenly taken a bunch of steps backwards. I think the Chiefs look like a team that's starting to recover a little bit from their midseason woes when we wondered if they were the worst team in the league. But the Raiders were how they got out of that, right? And so I think it's good memories. It's always good to have good memories when you're going into a game. And I think the Raiders, I think, are in trouble in this one. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to give the 8.5.
Yeah, maybe this Raider team just plays better on the road. I think of Thanksgiving Day. They go into Dallas. They play the Cowboys really closely and win that game in overtime. They go home and they get beat by the Washington football team. They're at home a couple weeks earlier against the Chiefs and they get destroyed. When the Chiefs had not been playing well at all. You've used the term elixir at least 3 times today. And I have to say, the Raiders NyQuil must be the Kansas City Chiefs this year, because the Chiefs are going to put them to sleep. I don't think this Chiefs team is back at all, but I think they know how to beat the Raiders. We could talk about Patrick Mahomes and all of his struggles and everything, and I just don't think we're going to see a lot of that materialize. And this is a Kansas City Chiefs team that certainly, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, can rush against this Raider front line. I think he scored 2 touchdowns in the last game against this. To me is a no-brainer. I'm going with the Chiefs in this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the Patriots out of the league, who have a 7-game winning streak, the next longest winning streak in the league is 5 games. And it's the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that long ago when we were talking about how the Chiefs were in trouble. Remember, I think they were 3-4.
Yep.
And they looked horrendous. Mahomes looked like he was lost for the first time in his career. Well, looky here. They've now won 5 in a row. They're 8-4. They're only, by the way, a half game back of the Patriots for the best record in the AFC. So, this is the time where great players make great plays, and the Chiefs have more great players than do the Las Vegas Raiders. I think you're making a smart choice there. Take the Chiefs, give those points.
I look at them. So I don't think the Chiefs have. They've had a weak schedule, and they actually have a fairly weak schedule the rest of the way as well. And so I sort of look at this Chiefs team as a team that might start to look better on paper, and might start to piece some wins together. I mean, they're winning not because of Patrick Mahomes. They've won their last couple of games because of how well, believe it or not, their defense has played. So I still think that there's a lot of issues there, just not this week. Not
the Chiefs in the last 5 games, the winning streak, they haven't given up more than 17 points one time. Can you tell me which team scored 17 on them?
That scored 17 on the Chiefs during that period. No, I did. Raiders.
It was your New York Giants, Dave.
Oh God. So sad.
No, they gave up 17 to the Giants, only 7 to the Packers. They gave up 14 to the Raiders, 9 to the Cowboys, and then of course 9 last week against Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos. But defense is playing really well. They've kind of led the comeback, I guess you could say, which I didn't see coming at all. I figured it was going to have to be Mahomes turning things around, but it's really been the defense that's played well. And, I expect that not to change this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you are going to make me want to talk about the 49ers at the Bengals, essentially a pick'em game. 49ers actually favored by a whole point, Brad. Heading into this game, I've waffled all week between the 49ers and the Bengals. And would we, sort of see the Bengals sort of get back on track this week, or were we going to see the 49ers find a way to go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals pretty handily? I have flip-flopped on this game, Brad. As I mentioned, just a bunch of times I've spun the wheel, which is basically what I think you can do on this game. And I've landed on the 49ers. I'm going to take the 49ers. Originally I was going to go with the Bengals. This is a gut check game. This is what I wish I did last week with the Chargers when they went in to Cincinnati. I am not on the Cincinnati bandwagon the way you are. I'm going with the 49ers. Even though they're favored by 1, I consider this to be an upset nonetheless.
Yeah, I hate this game. First of all, I kind of like both teams.
Yeah. But
I hate the game in terms of having to pick it. I'm not a big fan of games where they have like a 1-point spread. I mean, you're basically just, trying to find some sort of nugget that leads you in the direction of one team or the other. But I think when you lose the Seahawks, you're not playing really good football right now. And the injury to Deebo Samuel concerns me. They got more injuries now in their running attack. And really, when they were playing their best football 2 and 3 weeks ago, that's where they were dominant. They could just run over you. I think against the Rams, they had like an 11.5-minute drive and the first drive of the game. And I think that's a problem. I think Deebo Samuel, we found out last week, is a huge part of that team. And if he's not healthy, and now suddenly you got more injuries at running back, I think that makes it very challenging for San Francisco to go into a place like Cincinnati, who does play good defense, and win a game. So I'm going to take the home team. I'm going to take the Bengals. I'll give the point. And I think the Bengals are going to win another game. When you look at the standings right now, the Bengals are a game back of Baltimore. But a win here gets them to 8-5. And I think your chances of making the playoffs increase exponentially if you get to that 3-game over 500 mark. They're not out of contention for winning the division. It's a very tight division. I mean, every team is at least 500 or better. The Browns are currently in last place. I don't think either one of us would have said that, 6-7 weeks ago that we thought that would happen. But this Bengals team, Dave, has scored 64 more points than their opponents on the season. They're a legitimate football team. They have been better on the road than at home. But I'm saying this week, you take the home team, you give the point.
Yeah. Look, I can't argue with your reasoning too much. This is at this point definitely just a pure gut pick on my side of the fence. It was good to see George Kittle, show up last week. I haven't seen him play that well in it feels like a year and a half. So.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any George Kittle talk because the guy I was playing against had George Kittle on his fantasy team. And if they could have just figured out how to knock him out of bounds as he's tight-roping along the sidelines, what in the hell was that?
Yeah, that's vintage. That's vintage Kittle. It's absolutely vintage Kittle. Kittle for you for sure. So it'll be very very interesting to see what happens in that one. So Brad, a couple of quick notes. One, I want to thank you for not picking the Falcons Carolina Panther game this week.
Boy, what a humdinger that's going to be. You know?
Or the New Orleans Jets game this week.
I was very close to taking that New Orleans Jets game, Dave. I want to know it came down between that one and I think the first game that I picked, the Lions at the Broncos, which is another beauty. But I decided to give you a week off of the Jets. I promise I'm bringing back the Jets next week, Dave.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to do it because I certainly will not be doing that. All right. Any quick thoughts before we get out of here for week 14?
No, it's cold down here, Dave. I don't know how these people live in this weather, like we saw in Buffalo. I got out of that deal like almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I got to say hi to the super fan. She's up there in Minnesota, and I'm sure that it's, a balmy 15 degrees or something. And, but I don't get it. I'm sitting here and I'm like freezing. It's 56 degrees out and it's raining. And I'm just like, this is just not right.
So to put this in perspective for all of you out there, Brad lives in beautiful Southern California, which has maybe 10 days a year that are poor from a weather perspective. We just happened to catch Brad on like one of the days where it was bad. Just more reasons why Brad could never relocate to Seattle.
Yeah, sure. This is what I feel like doing right here. Put on the hat.
There you go.
I bought firewood at the grocery store today.
I didn't realize they sold firewood in Southern California.
Oh, the pallet's full. Nobody buys it.
It's people buy it and then they put it in their trucks and take it up to Oregon.
No, it looks good. It looks good to have firewood. Everybody should have firewood. They just shouldn't have to use it.
Yeah, you don't want to actually use it because it does do something to the environment. If you've ever been in a smokestack county in speaking of Oregon. All right. I think that's it for this week, Brad. I'm super excited about all the games. I'm looking forward to this Thursday night game between my favorite head coach in the National Football League and my favorite football team. Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers takes on the Vikes. I, of course, will be pulling for the Vikes in this, but if Tomlin wins, I won't be too sad about it.
I'm sure that my text messages will be hot and heavy tonight, boy.
Is this the week where a head coach gets fired at halftime? That is Mike Zimmer clearly on the hot seat. All right. Make sure you check out our Big Sports website when you have a chance at mighty.rip. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBow up in Northern California. We are wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out mighty.rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.